Okay. So we have established that there are two investments and that each of those investments can be represented by a straight line. The question is, how are we going to get to earning $7,000 per year and representing all the investments together? That is, all two of those investments together. Here are the two investments, each one represented by its own line. What is the next step that we should take? Think about it for a moment. I'll pause while you do that. Okay, so recall that we have to earn $7,000 in interest or more from both of those investments together, right? So it can be, $3,000 in one from one investment, 4,000 from the other, or something like that. Recall also that Y represents the amount that is earned on the deposit X with the given interest rate M. So when we want to earn $7,000 total, we want to take the Y value from the first line representing the first investment and the Y value from the second line representing the second investment and add them together, right? So hey, if I can add the two lines together, the Y values together, that'd be great. My slight problem on the graph is that, well, I'm using Y in both places, right? So though I want to do this, I mean, this is the first equation, this is the second equation. I could write this as what? Y1 equals M, well, I'm using the multiplication operator X1, right, to represent the amount deposited into account 1, and Y2 equals, we were using I for the interest rate on the other one, star X2 for the amount deposited on the second account. And then if you wanted to, so Y1 is the interest rate, is not the rate is M. Y1 is the interest earned on the deposit in the first account, that is on deposit X1. And Y2 is the interest earned on the second deposit, which is X2. So to get both of those deposits combined, I could write Y1, rather the return combined, I could write Y1 plus Y2, correct? Equals what? The minimum that Blondie and Doug would want is $7,000. So we could write that as the interest earned is greater than or equal to 7,000, right? But dealing with inequalities, it's not a problem. It's just it's an inconvenience right now. So we'll set it as Y1 plus Y2 equals 7,000. Okay, that's where we are. And then we can also combine the right-hand sides, I mean the equation form, and we could write Y1 plus Y2 equals MX1. Note that the ones and twos should be subscripts, but well, I'm doing this on the fly, so I'm just gonna, just stick with simple typing, but I hope you understand what's going on over here. Okay, cool. So now we have equals mx1 plus ix2. And so, essentially, to simplify things, I could type each of these equations like so into Desmos and get the lines. So we go over here. All right, here. So far so good. All right, but I've got those equations, but the reason I'm blanking out the other part is because I want to talk about a little bit. So this is the same as you saw here, right? This piece and here, these pieces, and then this and this. So we've got, what the heck did I do here? Okay, I went back to, okay, here we are. So we've got this portion written out. Then I try to combine the equations like I did here, and I run into a Desmos problem. This is not a math problem. Let me repeat, this is not a math problem. This is a Desmos limitation. I can't do that. It doesn't recognize, if you click on this warning sign, it says we only support implicit equations of x and y. Basically, what that means is, hey, you can represent your variables only by x and y. It's, you know, it's a dumb limitation, but what can you do? So I'm going to have to sort of gimmick my way around this. One solution would be to write something like y equal y1 plus y2, and you could do that, and x equals x1 plus x2. That is a perfectly mathematically legitimate way to do it. The problem is I still get the same error in Desmos, okay, which is a pain, right? So I'm going to have to rewrite the equation in a form which can be potentially confusing. Let me pause a moment and write it out, and then we will resume our conversation. Okay, so my solution to the Desmos limitation. Remember, this is not a mathematical limitation, it's a Desmos limitation. My solution to that is to say the investment in the high yield savings account will be represented by X, and the investment in the mutual fund will be represented by Y. And therefore, I'm going to rewrite this equation here, right, as 7,000 equals mx plus iy. Now I agree with you, this is confusing as all get out, but till I find a better tool, let's just stick with this, right? So now remember, y is no longer the return on investments from this point onwards, like this point onwards. Okay, this point onwards, y is the investment in the mutual fund, and x is the investment in the high yield savings account. If you want me to explicitly show the multiplication operator, I'll just write it like that. Okay, all right. So far, so good. Are you with me? I'm going to wipe out these equations, right, by just doing this. Okay, so now I'm going to use this equation, right, which corresponds to this thing here. Oh, well, it doesn't correspond exactly to this thing, but that's the idea, is that we are using X for the investment in the high yield savings account and Y for the investment in the mutual fund. Now I realize that this switching around of variables is confusing. So if there's a point of confusion, or if you have questions, post to the week 4 discussion board and I'll be more than happy to reply. Okay. So for the moment, keep in mind that X is the investment in the high yield savings account and Y is the investment in the mutual fund. Y no longer represents the return on the investment. We're not using any variable right now to represent return on the investment. What we are saying via this equation here, that is the returns on the two investments together equal $7,000, right? The returns on the two, this is still the return on investment one, but it's this product, M star X. Remember, if I go back here, what did I do? Not this one. Maybe. Anyway, I think I deleted that those equations. But let's go here. This is what was the investment in the high yields account, and this is the mutual fund. We're doing exactly the same thing here. This is still, X is still the investment in the high yield savings account, and MX is the return on that account, right? Y is the investment in the mutual fund, and I dot Y, or the interest rate on the mutual fund multiplied by the amount invested in the mutual fund, gives you the return on the mutual fund. The two returns together, this and this, right, give you the total return that Blondie and Dagwood want, which is $7,000. Okay? All right. I'm going to make some more changes to the format of the equations. Sorry about that. It's not intended to be confusing. It's just that I'm now trying to get notational consistency between what I'm showing you here, between what was posted to the discussion board, and between what is being posted to the Desmos graph. Stay with me here, okay? If you're confused, post to the discussion board or email me and we can set up an appointment and talk through it together, or use a video meeting and whatever it is, get that done, right? Okay. What I'm going to do here is to make this equation look consistent with the graph that I'm going to play with in Desmos. And if you can recognize that this equation and this equation are the same, here D equals $7,000, and instead of M, I'm going to use capital S as the interest rate interest rate on the high yield. This is why I don't like to type on in the lecture, and writing is so much easier. On the high yield savings account. And what did I use? I'm using M, capital M, is the interest rate on the mutual fund. Yeah, M for mutual fund. And S for savings account, right? So we have D equals, where did I go? Okay, here we go. So we have, how did I write this here? So we have S star X, right? It's represented as a dot in Desmos. X, but it's confusing in a written document, so I'm going to write out the operator. Remember, the asterisk is the standard representation for multiplication operator across science, engineering, and information technology. Okay, so S star X plus, which is this piece, right? And M star Y equals D, right? Equals $7,000, right? Okay. So this is the equation that we represent here in the discussion board. Let me switch to the discussion board and talk about that for a moment. So this piece just covers what we've been talking about so far. You know, being careful about representing percentages, and the constraint on the equations, and that is an actually important phrase: constraint on the equation. But let's go systematically. So here I said the first is write out the definitions of the variables, and this is well, you will see how one of my mistakes arises. Okay, so the rate for the high yield savings account is S is 3%, is 0.03. For the mutual fund, the rate is capital M, which is 10%, is 0.01. Total amount of investment is $200,000, and the total amount of income to be received is represented by D equals $7,000. And so recall what we'd want to figure out, and this is probably another good point at which to respecify the problem. Okay, what is the problem that we are trying to solve? Can you remember what the problem is that we are trying to solve? Can you write it down quickly as a sentence or an equation? I hope you paused the video and wrote down the answer. Or in this case, wrote down the formulation of the problem. The problem we are trying to solve is how can we receive an income, or rather, how can Blondie and Dagwood receive an income of $7,000 per year if they have got $200,000 to invest and two options for investing, which are a high yield savings account and a mutual fund. The high yield savings account has an interest rate of 3% per year, and the mutual fund has an interest rate of 10% per year. And so what Blondie and Dagwood want to figure out is how much money should they put into the high yield savings account and how much money they should put into the mutual fund so that they can earn at least $7,000 per year. All right, I'll pause again while you think about that for a bit. Right. To repeat again, Blondie and Dagwood have $200,000 to invest. They want to earn a return of $7,000 per year. They have two investment opportunities or options. One is a mutual fund with an interest rate of 10% per year, and the other one is a high yield savings account with an interest rate of 3% per year. The interest rate on the savings account is being represented by S, capital S, and that on the mutual fund, that is to say the interest rate on the mutual fund is represented by capital M. The amount of income to be received is represented by D, and the total amount of investment in dollars that they are going to make is represented by N, and that's equal to $200,000. So this is how we have stated the problem over here. Okay, now here's my first mistake. I switched the notation here because I was typing this up and I guess I didn't remember or whatever it is. So this should not be R. There's no strikeout on here, but let me replace this. The interest rate on the high yield savings account is S. If you caught that mistake, great. In future, if you catch something like that, tell me right away, okay? The interest rate from the mutual fund is M, which is good. That's consistent with the notation we've been using. And I'll correct my mistake here and write it like so, okay? So now we are consistent between what I've written here with what I've written here. The equations are, the left and right sides are interchanged, but that's okay. You got to get used to that. That's normal part of manipulating equation. And this is also consistent with the terminology or the notation that we are using here, right? Sx plus my equals d. Same thing here, same thing I wrote out over here. So far, so good?